All right, so you're listening to the special prosecutor laying out in great detail in opening statements, step by step, of what happened before that fatal shot that killed cinematographer Helena Hutchins on the movie set of Rust. I've been paying special attention to Alec Baldwin, the actor on the right side of your screen. He's been taking copious notes throughout this opening statement. Again, he faces 18 months in prison if the jury in this case finds him guilty of involuntary manslaughter. The armorer in the case, Gutierrez-Reed, already found guilty under the same charge. The jury right now is made up of 11 women, 5 men, and again, he faces jail time if found guilty. Anytime a celebrity is in the courtroom, there's an added layer of interest for a jury. Richard Gabriel is with us now. He is a jury consultant and president of Decision Analyst Litigation Strategy. And I would imagine this jury is acting much like I am right now. I'm watching Alec Baldwin. I'm paying attention to his demeanor, what he's doing, his facial expressions. How does that impact a jury when you've got a celebrity as the defendant?
Well, I think the jury is always going to look over at a defendant and try to do a character assessment. I mean, they're trying to see, is this the type of person that would have been so reckless? So they are evaluating demeanor, but a lot of times it's more of a nonverbal, more of a subliminal effect on them. Obviously, they were asked a little bit about their knowledge of Alec Baldwin and his movies and his television shows, and that can also have a subliminal effect in terms of how they see him and his personality overall. But that being said, some of the character stuff some of the volatility stuff about Alec Baldwin in the past was many years ago. And so I'm not sure how many of the jurors actually are still aware of some of those incidents that were reported kind of wildly about some of his erratic behavior. But that being said, they are looking at him, but they're also really trying to focus on the evidence that's being presented to them right now.
All right, so preconceived notions of the defendant, anything in the past, anything regarding this case that may have made the press. I mean, he's been very outspoken. He did that big national interview saying, I did not pull the trigger. What are the instructions from the judge to a jury in a case like this? As you mentioned, 70 of the prospective jurors were familiar with this case. Only 2 raised their hands and said they hadn't. What are the instructions they'll be given from the judge as they move forward?
Well, they're obviously told that you have to consider only the evidence that's presented in court. But that being said, the research does suggest that some of the other stuff filters through. I think one of the things the prosecutors have to be very concerned about is that Hannah Gutierrez-Reed has already been found guilty of this case. So some jurors may be in the back of their minds wondering a little bit about, well, okay, if someone, the armorer, who's responsible for loading the gun, has already been found guilty, why is Alec Baldwin on trial here? The prosecutors do have to kind of show that he, in order to get to that recklessness, that sort of negligence standards, that criminal negligence that they're looking for, they have to find that he actually had to know that there was a live round in there and therefore he was doing it. But that being said, as you've just heard with the prosecutor, she's laying a case for him doing his own thing. In other words, he's kind of a loose cannon, his own kind of deal, and doesn't follow the rules. And so she's making a case to try and help the jury kind of bridge that gap, to try and figure out how he actually was more negligent. It's kind of a civil standard, but so it's an interesting task for the prosecutor and for the jury.
How does it strike you that, and as I'm looking at and observing, his brother is in the crowd behind him, Stephen Baldwin, also his wife, it appears, in the white shirt, is in court. How does the jury perceive his personal support in the courtroom?
I mean, juries always like to know a little bit more about the person and who's there. That being said, though, they realize to a certain extent, there's a lot of sort of outside influences. They know the press is watching. They understand this is a high-profile case. They're really trying to focus on the evidence in the case. They know that what they're tasking is something actually quite remarkable happens with jurors. Despite all pretrial publicity in these high-profile cases, they really do try to focus amongst the 12 or the 16 that are there on what is the evidence. How does the prosecutor lay out to try and present their case beyond a reasonable doubt, and what does the defense have to say about it?
Yeah. And the question remains, will he take the stand in his own defense? He clearly is engaged right now in the opening statements. Richard, Gabriel, thanks for your perspective as always. Real interesting.
Thank you.